I do? So, thank you very much. Here, as said, we'll talk about redefining the playground of service design. And first of all, I want to start to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Maximilian Möller, working for Deloitte Digital as a senior manager for digital experience. And just to say something to myself, which could be more or less interesting for you, is I studied economics and business software engineering, but I bailed out shortly before my diploma because I founded my own consultancy, and which went real well for a couple of times, which I found quite interesting. And after that, I decided to work in I took over my parents' businesses because they were really getting old, so I was working for 5.5 years in clothing retail, selling blouses and underwear to customers in my hometown. And that's where I picked up. I founded again my own business in clothing retail, and which went quite well for 2 years, but then failed really badly. And then after that, while I was always working in agencies as part-time, I started in an agency, a digital agency, became managing director of this agency, and then Deloitte Digital. Just to give you a short background of what it is, and I enjoyed still working for 2 years now for Deloitte Digital, and it always keeps me on my heels because there's so much new things to do. And I'm still learning every day, and I'm learned already today from all the speeches, and I'm learning every day from my 2 kids. My 3-year-old son, tomorrow is his birthday. He's just the most amazing guy because he's just not caring a lot, and he doesn't give a shit about most of the things which keeps bothering us adults. So that is very interesting. Why? We heard a lot of things here today in terms of, and we had awesome speakers talking about innovation and experience design and getting the right idea, which is very, very important. From what to talk with you about is like a little bit shifting to go with the green line a little bit to the right, not getting the right idea. We talked about experience and how to design the right idea to prototype. But what I want to talk about is, and shift the perspective a little bit coming from a technology point of view, and to say, okay, why there are so many great ideas that have been invented through service design and other things, and so many things have like come to life, which is failed of different reasons. And the challenge mostly is that you have to deal with IT, with legacy systems, with systems that really makes it hard to work with, and everyone who had the chance of dealing with systems like SAP or something knows that the creative process in terms of dealing with this kind of software is really bad. So we have to create something new. So in terms of when to solve this problem, why so many ideas are failing because of technology, and the enemies or the idea killers are always very, very obvious. It's for us, for example, when we present an idea, it's the purchasing department. It could be the slow-moving IT, but there are a lot of challenges, and to start. I would like to with something because when I first joined Deloitte, I found the same question because they were asking me, okay, how to build a digital agency within Deloitte, and after coming into the company and we had the first big roundtable talks, we came very closely to a dead end because you cannot build a digital agency because there are so many pricing and legal restrictions. We are not allowed to host applications. How could we sell digital experience to our clients? And we very closely come to a dead end, and we have to say we need to change something. We have to do like fundamental changes and fundamental decisions. And there's something which I already learned at Deloitte as a trademark from a strategy consultancy is to say where to play and how to win. And this is a very important question. So we decided what we want to do. Do we really want to compete with agencies on their turf? Because agency having the right people, the right attitude, the right culture, and actually I have to admit that competing against my old pals just doesn't feel right. So why I like trying to reinventing things when the other option is to choose your own playground? And this is the most important thing. It's like, do you want to change the playground, to redefine the playground? That's what we did back then, and it was a good choice because it's instead of just executing things which other people invented, and was most consultancy, which I formerly quite hated. Instead of just executing things, was other people invented. In English, we call it put lipstick on a pig. And I learned that from my Polish colleague. It's in Polish, it's malowania trupa, put powder on a dead man, or malowania trupa. Thank you very much. Malowania trupa. I love the saying. We have the saying in German as well, but it's really vulgar. And the same is, it's like we don't want to execute where we saw it because we had an opinion, because all of the things we'd already mentioned, user reach, as a really understanding of the users, that we said it's not a right solution with that. There were strategic consulting thinking, having a gut feeling what customer wanted, and we saw a lot of things today already, how to do really good research and from a user point of view. So we said, okay, we want to move creativity or move design up the food chain indirectly, even in identifying the problem we are trying to solve. And that was what we did, and that was very, very successful as well. So we were actually helping, not just executing, but also co-creating at the very beginning to find out what's the real problem. We heard a lot of things like how to define the real problem we are trying to solve, what a solution could look like, and of course, a direct sanity check of the solution, if it can be implemented and if it really makes sense. So it was really when we were going to the left, identifying the problem. It was identifying, doing the first prototypes, doing the first service design, then of course delivering and later running from a technology point of view. And so this was it was the right choice, because right now, from what we are doing at Deloitte Digital, is 50% of the work we are doing, we are working directly with this high-end C-level strategy consultant, and it's on the same eye level. So they don't just ask us do this, do that. They ask us how could we do that, and how are we getting customers involved, and how going to bring an idea to life. And this is, we learned, and I already mentioned where to play and how to live. They learned a lot from us, but we learned a lot from them as well in terms of strategic, but also technical thinking. So going on to the next challenge, for example, because of course, we wanted to do exceptionally good digital projects in delivering like portals or whatever, e-commerce solutions, Adobe, Salesforce, and apps and everything what we did. But what's missing now, when we got in touch with ethnographic research and service design and innovation strategy, we recognize there's much more at stake right now. We're not talking about digital projects, but we are talking about like digital transformation, and the whole thing just blew up, become bigger and bigger. And we had to, again, then to really understand, firstly, what the problem is. And a lot of companies, and this is, we're working with a lot of big companies, they have to realize the problem as well. And in doing that, it's very interesting, just two quotes from here, for example, from Harley-Davidson. They recognize that it's not about like product engineering anymore, but they have to embrace new capabilities which they didn't thought was just executing as well in terms of software design, system integration, and that every domain is now a domain technology as well. And then it's very interesting, like, because companies, of course, companies can react if they if they are confronted with digital or experience, and it's not something that they're dealing before because everything was just like divided in departments and everything. They're trying to look for a fast solution, and the fast solution, of course, was every time is we're going to found a lab, and they're going to do the creative stuff. And there are very interesting studies from 2017, especially in Germany, that every second innovation lab does not fulfill its promises so far. So half of the studios which are failing, and there are a lot of interesting reasons for that, and one is from the MIT Massachusetts Information Technology Institute in Sloan, is that they are missing something. So of course they're embracing technology in a creatively way, but they lost the impact on the core. They lost kind of the direction to the company where they were less related to, which is very positive in one way, but it's very negative if you cannot implement ideas because you are always bouncing back from the IT and the leadership system. So again, off to new borders, we thought, and why going off to new borders? We are very careful not adding another silo in an already siloed world, because in doing so, when we come to the company, there were on a lot of levels there were already initiatives and activities. So, of course, the C-level were asking a big strategic consulting company, do me a slide deck about the new strategy. The IT system, the very slowly IT systems realized that they were moving very slowly, so they burst out in hyperactivity in doing an RFP, just introducing another software to the already very complex software world. Then they have to say, okay, now we need agile coaching, we need to work agile and everything. And of course, then the innovation department and said, okay, we need to introduce design thinking or other innovation methods to keep like a lot of ideas, to create a lot of ideas, which again bounce back from the company itself. So I was asked back then, like a year ago, to take over the service design capability within Deloitte, and I was saying, okay, in this already very complex mess, why adding another complex thing? And therefore, we thought about like how can we do something else? How can we do something different? And finally, like how could we like redefine the value of service design and user experience design in terms of its strategic value within bringing ideas to life? So we did a lot of workshops with C-level during the time with the IT leadership, the IT board members, and everyone. And it was very interesting, like to dig all these little tiny things what kept us from realizing what the real problems were. Because when we start realizing the real problem, it was kind of easy. And it was similar for all the companies we had. So the first thing is just ask your customer. It's always stop talking about gut feeling. They always said get in contact with your customers. They always said, yeah, we know who our customers are, but they didn't. And they always thought they did, but like to really build empathy with the users, to embrace the user's goal, it was not something they were trained for. And it was very interesting in a workshop where they decided that there were a lot of things in terms of we're already doing that. So we have a search on our website, but we have an analytics team who said, yeah, but the search team is not used. We don't really trace what's happening because it's not used so much. But why it's not used? It's the same thing because the search was real crap. So they thought they just with analytics saying that, oh, the search is not used, it just went off to a totally wrong direction and not finding the real problem. Next thing is the customer journey count. This is very important because the customer journey was, from our point of view, was supposed to be the main thing, the map for all digital activities. And they missed of using or like raising the potential of the customer journey in not only defining like focusing on things and defining moments that matter, but also they had different journeys for the same personas. And this one was again, if you're just focusing on different customer journeys for the same personas, you're just missing energy. Align your activities, which is very interesting what we did on the customer journey. When we said, okay, let's talk about this part of the customer journey. What kind of things could we improve, optimize, and whatever. Every time when in a large workshop, every time was bursting out, though, we're already doing this and doing this and doing that. And then the other people on the department said, well, we're doing the same thing. So they didn't know that we're working on the same things with different and mostly redundant project approaches, and they were already understaffed and 150% of their normal workload, and then they found out that there are a lot of redundancies. So you can use the customer journey as a map of your digital initiatives within your company. Always think from ideation to development, and this is something very important. A lot of ideas, they always said, we have so many ideas, so many prototypes already thought out, but none of them came to life, and they kind of, it was a bottleneck that was created, and they were tired of really interesting method in user research and personas and everything, because it doesn't lead to anything. And that was very frustrating for us, really believing in the personas and in the design process and everything, because it was not used right. So always think from ideation to development is one of the important things. And what they always did was the art of small steps, which is kind of interesting, because when they then start digital projects, they always want to have this full end-to-end solutions running. And they say, yeah, we identified the problem, we just triggered a project, and it's going to run for 2.5 years, and after that, everything is going to be better. And we always said, like, why don't take small steps, get success, praise yourself, then do the next project. The normal situation was always like get everyone in a room, buy SAP, and then have a 2.5 year project, and afterwards everything is going to be fine. So interestingly, the other thing that we identified was that they already used, well, like I said, they used personas, they used all this kind of methods, but they it was a missing link in there, because they didn't tie personas to customer journeys, they didn't tie back-end processes to moments that matter, and for example, through service design blueprint, they didn't align initiatives. So it's said, if you said work with personas, we already have it, but you cannot, we're not able to use their personas, which were built for communication purposes in terms of how to get the real messages out there, but if you do it for software requirement or service design purposes. And the same thing with the customer journey. And the most thing always we found that the strategy is missing, the design strategy is missing. Everyone said we have a strategy, and when they presented it, most of the department says, this has nothing to do with my everyday work. How can I connect the projects I'm running with this overarching digital strategy? So there were a lot of things already in place. It was just this missing interlock between all these different capabilities. And interestingly, this interlock, we found them in methods with service design, which we kind of adapted to our purposes. So what we did here, what I try to explain with this picture here is really coming from a journey to an architecture perspective. So again, we had found a lot of customer journeys, and it was, even though that it became a little waterfall-like, because the first party and the first team was doing all the customer journeys, then the next party took over, they were doing the prototypes, and the next party took over, and so on and so on. So actually what started off from a digital or an agile initiative became like horrifying waterfall-y. And therefore, what we are supposing, or what we're trying to say, or I'm trying to say with this, is that don't go horizontally and do customer journey after customer journey and persona after persona, but go vertically and really say, grab this little thing and really drag this little idea or this moment of matter through all the layers we're seeing here. So breaking down the customer journey into business processes, because this is the interlink to architecture design from an IT point of view. So really define data objects, do the data modeling, develop architecture also in a minimal viable point of view, and also think about a new IT architecture in terms of microservices and APIs, and after that builds a technical foundation which you needed. And this is not a one-way street coming from top to bottom, but a lot of times also we educated ourselves that from a solution architecture point of view, he was part of the creation process. So he gave ideas, okay, if we do this and this a little bit different, then I could reuse some of my already existing architecture capabilities within the platforms, and therefore we can like shorten the development cycle for 1 month, 2 months, or whatever. So it's a creative circle, and because it was very unusual for everyone in our team, because people who are doing just the customer journeys now had to break down those journeys into business process and data objects as well, and even into architecture capabilities. On the other hand, the architecture guys now had to be part of the creation process, which we're not used to. But the thing we're doing is it's in terms of efficiency. So we didn't, for example, prototype the whole journey. We just prototyped the moments that really matters, and we really focused on that. So in terms of integrity is that we directly sanity check possible solution on a customer journey and a prototype cycle to see, okay, how does this idea work against the architecture integrity and regularity conformity, for example, when you're we were asked to introduce a chatbot into the internal HR system with SAP. So you're really fast in an architectural point of view. Speed, of course, because if you focus on just the things that really matter, you really keep up in maintaining speed. And in terms of quality and then compliance is if you are able to keep your architecture really lean and clean and try to reuse things in terms of performance, which is in performance and user experience, you're going to gain a lot of quality and a lot of good response to that. So this is something which is, from our point, led to a new thinking, and which is also very important, is it led to a new skill set we needed for people who are working with us on those kind of projects. And just to give you a short expression about that is, of course, what we found here on the left-hand side of this graphic was, okay, first of all, we're just going to focus on service design. That was quite easy. But later on, we have to say, okay, there's brand experience design. If you even talk about, from a customer journey point of view, align digital initiatives and their sprint planning to have one consistent experience, then you have to do agile program management as well. For example, what we did is for a company who were selling agriculture machines, which I found very interesting because these machines cost up to 750,000 or 1 million euros. They wanted to just give the buyer of this kind of system, who have 20 or 25 of these machines working, the exact date of when this machine is going to be delivered, because they were all tailor-made. So if you say we want to increase the experience with this little feature, which is nothing, at the back end, they had to work in the SAP system, they had to work within the CRM system, they had to work in a lot of AP layers between the systems, the billing system, and all this connects the systems. And we broke down the necessary tasks within the system, and also SAP was involved as an EPR. We have to break down the necessary tasks into a sprint planning, inline the sprint planning, so that at one point of view, the tasks in every one of the touch system were in place, and then we could finally merge and deploy this new service. And they finally saw the benefit, and it's always coming from a what's in it for me attitude. They finally saw the value of why they are doing it, and again they had the customer journey as a map to say, okay, these are the additional delicious we're doing now. This is the sprint planning for this moment. So the next time we're going to do the sprint planning to make this moment better. And the next time we do the sprint planning with this system to make this moment better. And that was really interesting. And the other thing they really realized that is they were doing the wrong things because they had this big platform, and they were working on a feature that you can take a photograph of someone who's doing like this one or two steps. So you can see that Günther, the engineer, is sewing the wheel or the leather on the wheel of this truck. And they put a lot of effort in that. But when they asked their customer, they said, I just want to have the exact date when my machine is to be delivered. I don't want to see a picture of somebody working on it. I just want to see the date when it's going to deliver because I'm planning with this. So it's also about like focus on the real things and solving the real problem. But it also was in terms of leadership. When you start working agile, and the leadership team says, "Give me this report, and you need to do this, and you can work as agile as you want to, unless the budget is fixed, the scope is fixed, and you're delivering on time." Then you also need to work on the agile leadership, which was part of this team as well. And on the bottom line, of course, solution architecture, IT strategy, and most of all, what's very important, introducing DevOps as one methodology to manage the development cycle and to do automatic testing for fast deployment of future services was very important. So the redefined service design team, what we see here, it's changed. So it was more of orchestrating and just ideation. And we need a new skill force for that. We need new people for that. But the results proved us right, that it was the right approach for that. Also very important, and I call that from prototype to meta sprints, is, and this is actually redefining the playground for service design right now. Because just to give you some example where we derive from, because we saw a lot of problems. The first thing is, of course, in what we found in almost 90% of the companies was the broken infinity loop between value creation and value capturing. Value creation doing by innovation agencies, by service design agencies, creating prototypes, test them with users, and having absolutely awesome results when they break up with completely new ideas. But then they hand it over to the IT implementation, and then again, it seems kind of waterfally. And then the IT system says, okay, we are implementing it, and the service design team wasn't even anymore involved in the implementation because the IT took over. And why this is leading into a lot of problems is just what we know is we don't know. We are working towards the North Star, of course, and we think today's view of opportunity is going to be like it's shown here. But actually, the opportunity or where the new scope is going to be tomorrow, it's changing. That's why we're doing agile. So after, for example, if you spend 6 months in a value creation process or 6 to 9 months in a value creation process, lots of things have changed in terms of technological feasibility, about new processes, new tools, whatever, and even customer expectations are constantly evolving as well. So it took a lot of ideas, and also that's one of the reasons a lot of ideas died on its way to being implemented. And the next thing is I want to emphasize here is the cost of change with a traditional and an agile way. So usually in an agile project approach, the cost of changes are quite low because agile is open for change. It's embracing change. But here, with the approach we had here, because of the broken link between value creation, value capturing, we were actually falling back into waterfall thinking as well. So if we needed to change something, it was very, very costly. So this is why we came up with a theory, and this is what I'm presenting here today, of meta sprints. What are meta sprints? I made up the word myself, by the way. So meta sprints are something that during one meta sprint, you are doing the whole thing. So it's from value creation through implementation. We already talked about that we have solution architects in place. We have backend developers, solution architects, and everyone who's needed for building the technical foundation of everything. And we have the service designers in place who can like reshape the idea. And what we did, and we did that really successfully, we are working always on, we're already like right now working on 2 or 3 projects like this, that we're doing these meta sprints, really from ideation to implementation. And then after that, we are building on the architectural foundation we built before and created a new service for an ideation and then going back again. So during this meta sprints, it's very helpful because you are deploying value. The next thing is, of course, the North Star, and it will be moving, so we have to stay on our heels, is really to see, oh my, am I so much over time already? Oh my God. So, meta sprints. I'm so sorry. So the key benefits of embracing the dark of IT in terms of this project is really bring ideas to life. And actually, the good thing is when we did in these companies doing these meta sprints, they embraced the idea of doing service design and implementation in one sprint as well, because they saw the benefits of that. And what's in it for me is I said, we have something at the very end, and the organization was learning, was learning at the same time. It was also creating a nucleus for that because it was new to them, but it was very successful. So they started another initiative with the same setup, and another initiative, and another initiative. So it really became bigger and bigger. It's also this "don't tell me, show me" effect. Blah blah blah. Here it's on a presentation and it's going to work. No, we showed them that this is working, and we showed them that the team is appreciation this from the service design team and from the implementation team. Behavior changed while we are doing it. We had changed, and we didn't need any campaign of cross-functional teams and whatever. And of course, we built the foundation for much more things to come. And thank you very much, because I'm going to skip the video. And thank you for taking too much of your time.
Thank you very much, Max.